It is that time of the year where we are going on vacations. We're on break. We have warm weather. We're going outside. The way that I'm just describing a season to you, if you couldn't tell, it's my summer recommendations video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Liz, and in today's video we are going to be talking about my summer recommendations. I am always so incredibly excited for a new season to begin because I feel like you just get to unlock a brand new section of books, which makes no sense. You can read any book at any point. It doesn't have to be only read in a specific season. However, I feel that way, especially about certain books. If the title says summer, or if it takes place on the beach, or things like that, to me, I can only read it and like fully embrace the story, be one with the story and characters if I read it in the proper season. So that's just me personally. I know not everyone feels that way. I think that's just the way my brain is wired. So I'm just going to talk about some different books that I think would be really great to read in the summertime. There's a lot on my shelf that I've read that would be great for the summer. However, every year I try to put new recommendations on my seasonal TBRs or on my seasonal recommendations, just so that way things don't get repetitive. Because if you've watched my videos for a while, or if you've gone back and watched any of my seasonal recommendation videos, I don't want you to be seeing the same exact books every time. So I'm trying to put in some new ones. I will say there's like one or two books on my summer recommendations that I've definitely said in other seasons, or I've said in past videos. And that's just because it's a staple for me. Like, it's one of those books that I will always reread every summer. Or I just think it's the type of book / author that could be read literally at any point in your life and you're going to love it and be obsessed. You don't get a choice in the matter. So that's pretty much it. I don't know why I'm over explaining this to you, but I'm going to go through, I think I have like maybe 10-ish books, 11 books. I can't remember how many I actually put on my list. 5 of them I believe are romances. So half of them are romances, and I think I have like 4 or 5 fantasies, and then I have like 1 mystery thriller. So I read majority of romance in the summer. So to me, romance always feels like a summer time to read. I'm going to go ahead and talk about these 10 books with you and tell you why you should read them in the summer. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. First books that I want to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about the romances and get those out of the way. The first couple of romance books actually, are books that I've definitely recommended for other seasons, or 1 or 2 books in the series I've recommended in past videos. So sorry if that's repetitive. I'm trying to not be, but honestly, these are books that immediately came to my brain when I thought of summer. The first book I want to talk about is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I definitely recommended this for the spring, but upon further reflection, like I said before, you could read a lot of these books at any time during the year. Funny Story does take place in the summer season. In my head, it's great for summertime. Also, I just feel like the subject matter, it talks a lot about trying new things and exploring and adventuring and all that kind of stuff. To me, summertime is when I would do a lot of that kind of stuff. This story follows our 2 main characters who have both been broken up with by their significant other, and their significant others ended up together. So naturally, these 2 decide, let's live together. And when they get the invitation to their ex-significant other's weddings, they decide, you know what? Maybe we'll go to this wedding together and we're going to be fake dating, and we're going to throw it in their face and be like, hey, we're better than ever without you. It's the most petty but funny story ever. It's so incredibly good. I love our 2 main characters. Our girl, she is a librarian, so I personally love it when my characters are involved in the bookish community. And then our guy, he is, I believe, a manager at like a winery. He is the local boy. He's lived in this town for a while, and he's gotten to know the locals in this town, whereas she moved here with her significant other, and so she feels very out of place. She doesn't feel like she belongs here, especially since she's no longer dating the guy who she moved here for. So she has this like countdown on her head that she is going to be moving after so many months, because there's this readathon that she's hosting at the library, and so she has this ticking clock in the back of her head for pretty much the entire story. However, our main guy, he takes it upon himself to kind of show her around, show her all the local spots that a tourist wouldn't know about, and takes it upon himself to kind of help her fall in love with this town that she's moved to. And it's just a really beautiful story. I feel like it talks a lot about healing from heartbreak and starting over. The next book we're going to talk about is actually a series, and that is the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. These are cowboy small town romances. I have not finished the series. Reckless, which I think is the 4th book I'm on. I'm planning on reading that and finishing it this summer. There's 5 books, I believe. She's already written 2 different series. Like, there's a spin-off that she's currently writing, and there's even a series before this series. But this, I think, Chestnut Springs is the original series that got a lot of people into Elsie Silver, or at least opened their eyes to her writing. I love her writing so much because to me it's on par with like Lucy Score or Lauren Asher. It's very bingeable. A lot of her books are thicker, but it's so bingeable. It doesn't feel like it's a long book at all. I don't know what it is about cowboys, but cowboys are just, they scream summer to me. If you like cowboy small town romances, definitely pick up the series. Each book I feel like focuses on a different type of relationship or trope. You kind of get a mixture of everything. Next we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez so much. To me, she's like right up there with Emily Henry. She knows how to balance the perfect rom-com as well as talking and dealing with some very traumatic or sensitive subjects at the same time. Each of her main characters in her books is dealing with something that is difficult and like some sort of hardship or some sort of trauma from their past, and they're trying to overcome it. Like I said, she does such a good job balancing that with her characters. I'm laughing, I'm crying, I'm feeling all the feels while I'm reading her books. Just for the Summer is the third book in her interconnected standalone series that she's working on. Her newest book just came out, which I believe is Say You'll Remember Me. I have not read that one yet, but I really want to, hopefully soon. Our two main characters, they meet on a Reddit thread, and it's kind of like an am I the a-hole thread, basically, is where it starts off. Our guy, he lives in this city, and our girl, she is actually a traveling nurse, so she's only there temporarily. They both feel like they are the people who other people date, and then as soon as they break up, they go on to meet their significant other or the love of their life. So they're kind of, they feel like they're cursed in a way. They decide to date each other temporarily just for the summer and then break up and then hopefully go on to meet their true loves. I mean, clearly they're doomed from the start. That's a given. Our main guy especially, he is the embodiment of if he wanted to, he would. Everything in this book is him going out of his way to show our main girl how much he cares for her and how much he loves and respects their friendship / relationship that they have temporarily. And our girl, she has a lot of issues, a lot of trauma when it comes to her past. Her relationship with her mom is very rocky, and you get to see that dynamic. And also I feel like she did a great job with the story showing the healing process as well. You get to see someone who's kind of denying that they have trauma and that they have issues, and then showing how they overcome it or heal from it. They go on a lot of really fun dates, and I think the setting itself in this city, everything about it just screams summer. And yes, obviously summer is on the title. I understand. The next book we're going to talk about is Pick Up by Nora Dalia. I actually just read this past month, and I will be putting out my May wrap up next week, and I'll be talking about this book more in depth. It's also in a reading vlog, so if you've watched the reading vlog, you kind of already know the gist of this story. It follows a single mom and a single dad. Our girl, she I believe is like a video producer or director, something along those lines. And our main guy, he's a single dad. He's freshly divorced. So the previous year he got divorced, and he's trying to now navigate being a single parent and being there for his child. They meet each other at their school where both of their kids go to school. Right off the bat, they kind of butt head. It's kind of funny, kind of petty. I found myself laughing a lot during this book because of how petty both of these characters were, or at least the girl. She was very petty. And also, while you're getting their story, you're getting this third POV, which is kind of interesting. She's just kind of an outsider POV. She is at school pickup, and you get to see her observations of the girl main character and other parents who are coming to pick up their kids at the end of the day. So it's really interesting seeing that third party and witnessing what they see from the outside and how off someone's first impression, or like judging someone based on how they look, how wrong that can be, especially when you don't know the whole story. Both of our two main characters end up going on this work trip where they have to work together, and they're on this tropical island. And so that's why, to me, it felt like a summary read, because majority of this book takes place on this tropical island during this work trip. And the final romance book that I'm going to talk about is called Love to Hate You. I am forgetting what the author's name is, but I'll have a picture of the book on the screen. I read this a couple of months ago, and I remember after I finished it, I immediately thought to myself, this is the perfect summer read. It follows our main character, who is a bookstore owner. So she owns this small independent bookstore, and across the street, this big chain, so picture like a Barnes & Noble moving in across the street, comes in and is a threat to her business, clearly. And the CEO of this chain, they're going through renovations and trying to figure out like their store opening, but he starts butting heads with her, clearly. It's just really funny seeing their banter, especially from the very beginning, how much animosity they have for each other. Also, like, weirdly, a lot of sexual tension, but they had that just kind of like petty back and forth banter, trying to prank each other, which I thought was hilarious. I love it anytime the characters decide to prank each other. Our main girl character, she ends up going to this lake house with her family. It's like a tradition. Every year they go to this lake house, and she has a twin sister. Well, when she gets there, her twin sister brings her new boyfriend, and her new boyfriend, who brought his brother, just so happens to be the CEO of this mega bookstore chain. It's like forced proximity. It's also really fun because there's a lot of like games that they do. Like they'll do canoe races and like just different challenges. This family family loves to play games. It felt like you were at summer camp. I flew through it. It was very, like, I finished it in a day. It's just a very bingeable book. Next, we're going to talk about the one mystery thriller book that I had on my summer recommendations. I don't recommend a ton of mystery thrillers in the summertime. I read majority of my mystery thrillers in the fall or winter because they're dark, they're spooky, they're creepy. But there are some books that I do think are good summery thrillers, especially if it has to do with like almost like a slasher movie vibe where you're at a summer camp and there's a killer on the loose, like that kind of thing. But there is one book that I read this past January, and that's Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. This is her newest mystery thriller that came out in January, I believe. I had mixed feelings about it. I enjoyed it for what it was, but also at the same time, I feel like you either love or you hate Alice Feeney. I read Rock, Paper, Scissors by her, and I absolutely loved it. I finished it in one sitting and I gave it 5 stars. I think I had such high expectations after Rock, Paper, Scissors that weren't fair for the book itself, but when I think back on this book, I definitely do think this would be perfect for the summertime. It follows our main character, who's a man whose wife goes missing. One day they're on the phone, she's driving home, and all of a sudden she says, oh, there's a woman in the road and I need to go help her, and she gets out of her car and disappears. The story picks up a year later. He is struggling with writer's block, and his agent decides to send him to this reclusive island. It's got a very small community on this island, and sends him there to live and stay in this cabin and kind of try to figure out how to get out of his writer's block. When he's traveling there, he sees a woman who looks exactly like his wife. And so the whole time he's on this island, he is looking for her. He's trying to figure out what's going on. It's got so many layers. I think the fact that it's on this island and it's just like this small, close-knit community, it almost felt claustrophobic reading it. I don't know what it is about it, but to me, if I was going to reread this book, I would want to read it in the summer. Moving on to some fantasies. So the first book we're going to talk about is Hurricane Wars by, I am blanking on the author's name. I know the last name is Guanzon. I read this book last summer and I absolutely loved it. I flew through this book. It's following 2 different sides of this war. You're getting like this one group that's trying to like take over everything, and then you're also following this like rebel group that's trying to resist. Our 2 main characters obviously are on opposite sides of this war. The guy, he is the son of the commander that's trying to take over this continent, and then our girl, she is the last of her kind. So there is magic in this world where there's light bringers and there's dark bringers. The girl is like one of the last light bringers in the world in existence, and the guy is a dark bringer. So their powers are like evenly matched. From the very beginning, I was just hooked. Like seeing the fight scenes between them and the tension, like the hate, but also the obsession with each other almost. There was just this pull between the 2, and I really, really enjoyed reading about this story. I went into it thinking that it was just going to be very surface level, but it ended up being so much more than that. You do a lot of exploration in this world, and the second book is out. I think it's Monsoon Rising. I'm really excited to read that. That will probably be on my summer TBR because I really need to see and read this next book. The next book I want to talk about is Sirens by Amelia Hart. I also read this past month and I loved it. I think I ended up giving it like 4 or 4.5 stars, something like that. If you've read Wayward and you're used to that like writing style, basically what she does is she takes different women from different time periods, and so they each have their own stories that are threaded and like intertwined throughout the story. They're all connected in some way, and she just does such a good job with it. Wayward focused more on like witches, and Sirens focuses clearly on sirens, or aka mermaids. It's very salty, and that sounds weird me saying that, but this book itself feels salty. I can't explain that. I can't articulate why it feels that way. You're following 3 different women, mainly 2 different women, and then you get a third POV later on in the story. But our main character, who's in present day, she's sleeping, wakes up in the middle of the night, and she is currently choking her ex-boyfriend. And she's very confused. She's like, why did I wake up sleepwalking, and why am I choking him out right now? She basically flees her college campus because she's freaked out and runs to her sister's cottage in this other town. And when she gets there, her sister is missing. She ends up finding her sister's journal and starts reading about her sister whenever she was younger. Her sister's way older than her. You also are getting another timeline of these 2 twin sisters who lived back in, I want to say, the 1800s, something like that. It's happening when Australia was being colonized. That's kind of like the timeline of these other 2 twin sisters in the past. They are both prisoners on this ship on the way to Australia. They were both arrested, are now being forced on a ship with a whole bunch of other women to go to Australia and kind of become slaves, essentially. The way that these stories intertwined was truly amazing. I really loved Wayward when I read it. This one, I feel like she just got in her groove, and it's even better. Next book we're going to talk about is Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. I read this last summer as well, and I loved it. It is so bingeable and such a funny read, honestly. It's about pirates, clearly, Daughter of the Pirate King. Our main character, she is the daughter of the Pirate King. That's the title. It starts off with her basically being captured by an enemy ship. From the get-go, you know, she planned to get captured. She wanted to get captured because there is this missing map to treasure that she's looking for, and she knows that this enemy ship has it. So she allows herself to be captured by this enemy ship in order to search the ship and find this treasure map. She is just so spunky, and she has such a good sense of humor, and also she is just like so clever. She knows how to get out of any situation. It's funny seeing this other crew think that they have her handled when in reality she's playing them all like an instrument, and it's such a fun read. It is young adult, I believe. There is a second book. I have not read the second book, but I kind of want to, especially thinking back on when I read Daughter of the Pirate King. It had such great banter between her and I think, was it the captain? It was either the captain or the captain's brother, I can't remember, who is kind of like her guard throughout this story. Their banter was hilarious, and it's just such a fun read. I highly, highly recommend it. It's definitely got a little bit of found family as well. I always end up reading at least one book that has to do with pirates in the summertime. And the final fantasy I'm going to be talking about today is the first book in a series that I am not currently finished with, but I read the first 2 books and I fell in love with it. And that is Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha Tooley. These books are just so fun. It's like a combination of The Selection with Throne of Glass. Like, that's kind of the vibe you get from this book. Our main character, she is in this prison. So from the very beginning of the story, our main character is in this prison, and she ends up getting saved and broken out of this prison and taken to this other country or kingdom within this continent. While she is there, she is entered into the Trials of the Sun Queen, hence the title. And it's basically a competition between 10 different women for the Sun King's heart. It's just like very deadly trials, and she either wins and earns her freedom, or she loses and possibly dies or goes back to prison. That's why it kind of feels like Throne of Glass and also feels like Selection, because of the fact that it's other women competing against each other. I had a really fun time reading it. I will say the first book, very bingeable, but you get a lot of world building, you get a lot of questions. Second book, however, so incredibly good. I ate up the second book. You get another POV introduced in the first book that ends up becoming a more major character in the second book, and I loved that storyline so much. I know that sounds really annoying, me saying you have to read the first book in order to like the rest of them. I know that's annoying. I'm not saying the first book is bad. It's not bad. I just really loved the second book, and to me that's almost unheard of. Usually you like the first book the best, and then it kind of goes downhill from there. In this case, this is the exception. I loved the second book. There is 4 books in this series. The 3rd and 4th book are out now. I'm hoping to read these hopefully this summer, because I really want to finish this series. And that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know I'm releasing this video a little early, and the reason why is because I feel like everyone is graduating, everyone's going on summer break, and to me the beginning of June kind of feels like the beginning of summer. I'm not going to do my summer TBR for a little bit. I'm going to wait at least 2 more weeks before I release that one. I'm really excited for that and to talk about some new books to read, but I did want to go ahead and get my recommendations video out there in case you're trying to go and buy your summer reads ahead of time, or if you're planning some vacations and you need to go buy a new book for a vacation. This is the perfect time to do that. You know, I love to recommend books, especially when I'm not the one who has to go buy them, because I've already bought them for myself. We're not going to talk about that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully this gave you some new ideas. If not, I'm sorry if I repeated myself. I know that there were a few books on this list that I've definitely recommended before, but I have a hard time keeping track of that. I try to do some new books thrown in there, or at least books that I've read in the past year, so they're like newer. Thank you guys once again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Hopefully. Happy reading. Bye.